so excited to be here with our three panelists. So let's get started. I'm coming from Paris. I'm Client Success Director at Degreed, coming all the way from Paris to be with you all here today. And so excited to have with me today three of our clients, also coming from across the globe. So we have Josephine coming all the way from India. Her trip was way longer than mine, so I cannot complain. And then Marcus coming from Nebraska in the US. And then Stephanie coming from Germany, working at Boehringer Ingelheim, and Marcus for Lincoln Financial Group. So I am mentioning this because I think it's so exciting when people from across the world meet to talk about learning and topics that we think are so unique, but actually the same challenges that we all face. And I think we all agree that partnering with the business to drive scalable learning is something that's so important and critical. So we're not here to argue about that. But what I really want to focus on is get your experience and your perspective on how you do it. The how is always the part that everyone struggled with. So understanding how you do it, what challenges do you face? Because I'm sure that it will resonate with a lot of our of the audience. And also, how do you tackle them? How do you tackle these challenges? So let's get started. Let's start with you, Josephine. It's nice to have you here. Thank you for coming. Josephine from ZS Associates. Mm-hmm. Why don't you tell us more about yourself, about ZS Associates, and also the digital literacy program that you run? It was a great success story, so tell us more about that, what made it successful, all of it.
All right, absolutely. Hi, everyone. I'm Josephine. I have about 24 years of experience in the learning industry. Started my career as an instructional designer and then led a lot of learning programs, change management programs. And currently, I'm with ZS Associates. Been there for 9 years. And I lead the learning technology, the tech stack, and the operations team at ZS. Right. A little bit about ZS. ZS is a consulting and technology firm, and with 40 plus years of making great impact in the healthcare industry. And pretty recently, we ventured into the technology aspect of things, and we launched a platform called Zayden. Now, this was a little bit of a shift, which obviously enabled us to think about how do we make sure that everybody in ZS is tech-enabled, and they have digital, as the primary aspect of things when projects are being led, and how can we make sure that this, intricate element is well instilled into every ZSer, right? Now, having this framework in our mind, we started thinking about, okay, how do we go about with this, right? And the one thing that we wanted to do is we didn't want to keep it so diverse for everybody. We wanted everybody to talk the same language. So we decided, okay, let's do a one-size-fits-all. Now, you all know how difficult that could be, right? When we think of a one-size-fits-all, it doesn't match very easily with everyone. So we need to not go into the details, keep it at a little high level, but also think about the little nuances that we need to cater to, okay? So we partnered a lot with the business stakeholders to try and see how to go about with this approach. Now, this also led to many discussions. Of course, it did take almost a year for us to launch the entire program, but the key focus area was to make sure that everybody has the digital first mindset, okay? And with the new technology enablement that we have coming up, people need to know what are the digital and tech-enabled skills that they need to have? What is the business acumen that they need to have? And also have the innovation mindset, which is kind of critical to make sure that we are creating the impact for our stakeholders. And this also means when someone's talking to a client, anybody would have the same language when they talk with each other. So we had to partner with a lot of key business stakeholders. And of course, everybody would have a long list of things that they wanted team members to learn. And we narrowed down to about 17 key items. And then we categorized them into 3 broad overall areas. So that was innovation mindset, making sure that business acumen is covered, and of course, the tech knowledge that they need to have. All right. The second aspect that we had to think about was, okay, how long should the program be? right? We didn't want it to be so long that people go like, oh my God, I cannot take up time from my work and then go ahead and do this. But we also wanted to make sure that key aspects were covered and the business focus was also in there, which means the ZS relevance. We can get content and tell them, okay, this is the topic, go ahead and learn, but unless and until it's something that they can relate to their day-to-day work, it becomes very difficult for them to, consume that particular content. So we did, focus on all of these key elements, and then we had to obviously test it out. So we had an early experience team that tested it out. They came up with a few suggestions of, can we have some assessments? Because yes, we are trying a one-size-fits-all, but can we customize it by asking people some questions, right? And the beauty of Degreed is that, we could build multiple pathways, and we sort of thought, okay, for different roles, maybe we don't push them to all of them, but we kind of enable them to get started, and out of their curiosity, they can pick more, right? So that was another approach that we tried. The early experience team helped us do all of these particular, different nuances as we built through the particular approach. Then we did a pilot testing for about, 1,700 people, which was a great success. And then we did the global launch. And in about 4 months of the global launch, we hit 82% of adoption, which was, yeah, we didn't expect that ourselves. We were all surprised at the outcome. But yes, a lot of work went into those, technically like 6 months of planning plus the implementation. We had to work very closely with the marketing and communications team. They designed a series of cascading information. We had to get our CEO to talk about it in any office forums that we were getting on. And then all the leadership team members as well. We wanted everybody to talk the same language, right? At a high level. But with the teams, we wanted them to resonate very clearly on what is in it for them, for each individual team members. So I think that helped a lot. And again, ZS has 30 plus offices across the globe, and we had to think about the regional nuances, work closely with our HRBPs who partnered with all of the leadership team. So yeah, it was like, we had to cover all the spectrum of things. And also the other important element was, making sure that the learners felt happy because they completed something. So we offered them certification, yes, a gratification element. So we offered certifications, and we encouraged them to post it on social media, which they happily did. And we also included feedback survey to get feedback from the individuals, because that's very important. They need to be heard, right? And then how do we address that back with the leadership team and enabling all of that aspect? And also, a lot of people came back with how impactful this particular learning was for them. So that helped us position those statements from the team, which encouraged more people to also take up the training. So yeah, I think that kind of accounted for all of these things. And to end it all, since we were able to accomplish this helped us kind of implement a lot of new things for 2024. So this entire process happened in 2023. And towards the end, when we were deciding what should be our strategy for 2024, learning mindset and the learning culture kind of came as the top and the most relevant thing. This enabled the technology team to even boldly say, let's go for 80 hours of learning per year.
That's amazing success stories. Thank you for sharing that.
And another important thing is we just did something very similar to this. We launched a generative AI pathway just last week, again, following the same pattern, asking our leaders to talk about it.
You know the basics now.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Josephine. Such a powerful story. Marcus, I know you have a powerful story as well for how you partnered with the business when you launched Degreed. So why don't you tell us more about yourself, Lincoln Financial Group, and your success story? We want to hear all about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those of you who don't know, Lincoln Financial Group is a financial services company offering several different products. We have about 10,000 plus employees, US-based. Myself, I'm the AVP of Enterprise Learning Solutions. Been with Lincoln for 13 years and in learning and develop for the past 11 years. We took a little bit different approach. We wanted to make sure there was something in there for everyone. So we didn't focus on only doing 16, 17 pathways and wanted to make sure everyone could find something for their own development. And so we partnered very closely and had 4 elements to this. So first, we presented to all levels of leadership in order to get buy-in and support. And down below, you'll see kind of what our ask was and what our sell was to those leaders. We also presented at town halls on a regular basis to all the major business units. Anybody who wanted us to join a meeting, we were happy to. We made sure my team and myself divided and conquered and went to as many team meetings as possible for managers. We partnered closely with our HRBPs and our training teams throughout the business to make sure that the content was relevant to their areas. We absolutely knew that all 10,000 employees don't have the same goals for their development. Each area has different skills that are needed. So we wanted to make sure that it was available for everyone. And finally, we didn't ask too much. I think sometimes you ask too much of the business when you're doing some of these things. So you'll see there in one of our asks to the leaders was just 15 minutes a week. That's all we wanted, is just to allow their people for 15 minutes a week in order to adopt what we call My Career. So I'm struggling because everybody calls it Degreed. We call it My Career, and so that's what I usually call it. But I don't have the statistics up here, but similar to Josephine, we had very successful adoption rates. I think right before I came here, we've been launched for about a year, and 96% of our employees have been in there. And also we get about a 30+% each month returning to the platform.
This is impressive. Thank you so much, Marcus. All right, Stephanie.
Yes.
Coming here from Boehringer Ingelheim. We want to hear all about the BI University. When we had discussions previously, Martin, your colleague, was sharing how adventurous and ambitious you are as a client. So we want to hear all about that, about you, about Boehringer Ingelheim, and the great work that you've been doing, and how you partner with the business, because you have a special way of doing that.
Yes, absolutely, and happy to share the story as well. So for those of you who don't know who or what Boehringer Ingelheim is, I know this word is hard to spell as well. It's one of the world's largest pharmaceutical companies that is family-owned as of today still, and we have close to 55,000 employees all over the globe. And our mission, and why we are also collaborating with Degreed, is of course that we want to bring all learning and development content that exists already within our company under one roof. That's our claim. That's also where we have a really strong mandate from our board of managing directors. They have created this whole idea together with us, and we also have a steering committee that exists of a university board who are the chief of staff of each of those members, because this is also really relevant when we think of the business, because they represent the business, and who knows better what they need than they themselves, right? So this is something that, and we will talk about this more in detail later, I really, really strongly recommend whenever you want to get started with something for the whole company. We as HR alone are not able to cover all of the business relevant needs, and to drive this we have to cooperate and collaborate with them as soon as possible, and that's something really important. So what we have done already is we just launched our virtual campus. This is how we call Degreed at Boehringer Ingelheim, back in October. So it's pretty early still, but we already have more or less half of our employees created their accounts, and same or very similar numbers than you just mentioned, close to 70% are returning, and also close to 40% are returning on a monthly basis, which is already great. But of course, we also need to collaborate and co-create with the business to have this adoption rate increasing or being stable at least. We also have a lot of learning managers in the countries, in the business departments, and all of them already have great solutions. So this is also something that they didn't really wait for us. Of course, they see what the virtual campus and Degreed can offer to them, but many of them have already addressed their needs and found great solutions. So that's also something that that's also a great learning for us. And many of them are also asking us, so what's the data? How are people engaging with my content? How are people from my department or from my country engaging with the content? How often are they coming back? And all of these questions. So this is why we also created our own Power BI dashboard with the data that we can pull from Degreed. So that's also something I really, really encourage everybody to do, because you can learn so much from this data. And yeah, with one of the features, Skill Coach, and that is also something that we recently launched. Martin said this already before, we're quite adventurous, so we're just jumping in the cold water. We started this pilot with the whole IT department on a global scale. We have really, really well feedback on that, so happy to share more information on this as well. And yeah, let's see where all of this will lead us in the future.
Thank you, Stephanie. It's so exciting to see how the same challenges, the same ways of working work differently based on every company culture. But the common theme is the need to connect to the business, the need to co-develop with them instead of just doing your thing, because eventually they will end up doing their thing if you're not really collaborating and adding value in learning and development. So if we go back to your story, Josephine, what would you say was the biggest challenge that you faced when you partnered with the business, and how did you address that?
Okay, so I think the biggest or the most important one is to speak their language.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's like bridging the gap between a salesperson and a technical person who's down implementing it, right? They may speak different languages, but ultimately they're saying the same thing. So how do you make sure that the vision that the business has for this particular goal to be accomplished, and how are you going to do it? What are the key elements that are part of this particular process? How do you make sure that they understand that these are the little nuances that you need to, take care of, but explain it to them in their own language? So bridging that gap becomes a very important thing. Otherwise, it'll be like you're saying something, they don't understand it, and they're still saying that they want this. And like you said, they may try to implement something on their own, which is not how we want. We want to make sure that we're partnering with them and making sure that this whole process is successful, right? And again, when we are launching such kind of large programs, I think the important element is to make sure that every business team understands what's in it for their team members, and make sure that that relevance is built in. Even if we launch global programs, sometimes that becomes a very essential piece, because that then bridges the gap between what people are feeling and what we're trying to implement, and they can be the perfect bridge. Yeah. So I would say that kind of helped with the launch that we had recently.
Yeah. Getting their buy-in, so important. Speaking their language, definitely. It's a question of perception as well. It's funny because sometimes I'm in conversations where we would be talking about the same thing, but then we find out that everyone understood something completely different.
Yes.
So yeah, just speaking their language, understanding what's in it for me. How about you, Marcus? What's the biggest challenge you usually face? And how do you address?
First, I'd say same as Josephine for that piece of it, but and you saw this from our ask for them too, is time. You're always competing with time with the business, and understandably so, right? The business, you are a business, so you're trying to make money. That is the top goal for a lot of companies. So asking for only that 15 minutes, we actually found when we started going to that, they felt that was too little, and then it bred competition. We also shared the adoption information with all leaders. And then you saw this kind of competition happen between the leaders saying, well, my area has more people in it than your area. And then it got more and more people to kind of get in and allow them to use it. But time was the biggest thing. We asked them to focus that 15 minutes, choose a Friday or a day that maybe the less work for your team happens, and say, hey, can you give them that 15 minutes just to go out and explore? And so they can at least save something that maybe they look at a different time, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, and I think it translates really well with the way you approach it. I like your approach of time. It's usually the number one challenge that everyone faces when they ask people about, why learning isn't happening. I don't have time to learn. Thank you for that. And Stephanie, what's the biggest misperception that you usually have when you're partnering with the business?
Yeah. Well, I totally agree with what both of you have said already. And to add on that, I can say that there's no solution or no one-size-fits-all solution that we can offer our business. So when we engage with the business, we learn that they are already at very different maturity levels when it comes to their own learning and development strategy. Some of them are really mature, others are really waiting for support here. And this is also why we in our team have assigned ourselves as so-called learning partners. And we are closely engaging with the different departments of the business. So everybody has one dedicated person from our team that they are engaging with also on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, depending on where they are in their recent project. And the second thing is also something that we had to learn is people were questioning in the beginning, well, this means that it's more work for me, so I need to do something about this. And also the answer, what's in for me? So something that we have learned is really to assess the needs of the business right away, to support them as soon as possible, because time is, of course, really important. And to work with them as close as possible and show them what's in for them.
Yeah,
right?
I think that's the key thing.
Yeah.
What's in it for them. Thank you, everyone, for sharing all your ideas. I think this session has been so rich. 30 minutes was never enough. I want to just check if anyone has any questions for our clients. And thank you. Yeah, there's one person who has a question. And feel free to reach out to them afterwards as well to ask them questions, learn more about their programs. It's hard to cover that in just a few minutes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Thank you so much for sharing your experiences. My name is Wendy. I'm with ArtRock. My question is very much like y'all's companies. We have a development program, and we've got a multi-generational workforce. And so you've got the all about technology, and then you've got the all about How have you addressed that? Surely you've had the same experience.
Anyone particular that wants to? Yeah,
Go ahead.
Same here. We have very much entry level versus people leaving the workforce in the next year, maybe even 6 months. One thing that we wanted to make sure that we had is the vast content and how it's delivered, right? So you might have people who very much are so used to waking up in the morning with their newspaper and reading the articles, right? So we wanted to make sure we had the same type of information in article form, video form, course form, podcast, so that you can reach those multi-generational depending on how they like to receive the information. The information's the same, it's just how they are getting it based off of what their preference is.
Thank you, Marcus. All right. Thank you, everyone. I think we're out of time, but it was great being here. Don't hesitate to reach out to Marcus, Josephine, or Stephanie for any questions. Thank you.